those guys. It's especially those, like you say, those soldiers and stuff. It's optimism bias at its finest. It's thinking that it won't happen to me; it'll happen to the other guy. And invariably, that is not a terribly good way to live your life. But to be fair, for young lads in the military, that is what the military relies upon. That a whole sort of thrust of optimism bias and stuff, that it won't happen to them, that it'll happen to the other guy, because everybody thinks they're immortal when they're 19, 20 years of age.
Yeah.
And elements of that pervades into people's trading. Fear, greed, and hope. Those are the three main emotions. And as you pointed out, hope and fear are very much closely aligned. But people who know I'm always banging on that hope is not a strategy. You make a very good point. You do make a very good point that actually you have to have a little bit of hope when you're starting to build a strategy, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't do the work, and that's a fair point. But then that has to be replaced pretty quickly with rules, checklists, back tests, forward tests, to basically turn it from a little bit of hope to an actually a fully fledged workable method that actually has an edge and can deliver for you over the time. If you're not prepared to do that work in and just hope that it'll work out for you, well then you're probably going to be disabused of that notion pretty rapidly, I would suggest, when you come to put your trades on after a while and stuff. So it's that's one way that hope cripples people. And as you said, the kind of paralysis under pressure. People are kind of they're hoping for clarity instead of making a an informed decision. And on the flip side of paralysis, kind of overconfidence as well. You get a few wins under your belt and stuff, and you think you've cracked it, and that you start becoming overconfident after that win. You think that this little hot streak is going to last forever. You hope it's going to last forever. That it's actually basically going to allow you to trade the way you want. All right, and invariably that doesn't end. That doesn't end well. All right. Invariably, what happens is people end up over trading in terms of size. They oversize the positions because they've had a little bit of a hot streak, hoping that's all going to go away for them and stuff. And then they start sort of running ahead of themselves in terms of how it's all going to work, out. So other ways, I'd say ignoring risk management. I mean, people will ignore their risk management. They will hope that the trade works. They're like, I don't need to put stop loss in. I've hoped that this trade will work out, or I don't need, or I can move my stop loss further away because actually I know this trade's going to turn. I, hope this trade's going to turn for you and stuff and what have you. So, what I always tell people is, if especially intraday trading, if you're in an intraday trade and you just suddenly start finding yourself saying these things to yourself about, I hope this trade wins and I hope this turns, and that in itself is probably giving you a good insight into your mental state, and also the likely probability of the outcome of that trade.